This is the video with the Pat Metheny tone that I came up with for the Pod HD500X. So I've got it connected here, and this is what I came up with. I'll just give you a little sample of this. Let's see if I have a few different settings because I think Pat uses a couple different tones that he does. Because he's got the controls on his guitar and he can change the mix on some of them and stuff. So this is what I came up with to start with. Yeah, so there's that. I'll go through some of the actual the main ones. So I've got this attack synth. That's the main one, but then I've got the synthematic on there. So I'll show you what happens if I take off the synthematic. So you might want to, because this is kind of a mix between the two, just turn this up a bit. So essentially how I feel about that is I want it down there. And then now here's the difference with the synthematic. I find just having the attack synth on there by itself is a little bit sort of cheesy sounding, and it sounds like a really cheap synth kind of. So the way I feel about Pat's is his is kind of more like a wavetable synth sound where it's got that like whoosh sound at the in the attack. So I find that sounds better, and you can even change how that that attack sounds, that combination with the Q on the synthematic. Yeah, so I like the Q up a bit more than that. So those are the main ones, and I you notice if I play two notes, you get kind of a skunky sort of sound there. So you don't want to hit two notes. It's not polyphonic, so it doesn't. You have to be really careful you're playing single notes with this. And then so I'll go through some of the other effects. Like for instance, I have the reverb on. I've got a plate reverb. I find that sounds the best. For some reason, the spring reverb sounds kind of like inauthentic to me on this modeler, but the plate sounds pretty good. I'll take that off and I'll show you what that sounds like. So then if you add the plate reverb, I find it gives it a nice little, like a bit better spatial effect and more ambiance when you have the reverb on there. And also I've got this stereo delay, which is more like a slapback. It's a really fast speed. So you've got it at 500 milliseconds and 270 milliseconds. So actually I can turn down the feedback and it's more of a slapback. So it doesn't, but I find it sounds more like a live performance, like you're in a hall or a room or something like that, where there's a bit of like reflections and things. So I like that sound on there. And then just for I find with this unit, you get a bit of a hum unless you have a noise gate on there. So I prefer the hard gate because I find that you can get a more buttery attack with it. And same thing with the compression is the tube compression. I generally feel that a lot of these compressions kind of have a thumpy attack with them, which I think is good for metal in a lot of cases. But for me, I like a nice buttery attack. And this is the only way I can find it. But also, I have the level on this compression fairly low, because if I turn this up, since it's a tube compression, it's going to set it into overdrive. So I still have this fairly low. And if you want the threshold higher or lower, you can change the volume with that. So that's those two. I have those pretty much on every effect that I have on this modeler. It's just the how, I mean, if you don't have a compression on there, you'll get zero sustain, and it's going to sound like it's a guitar coming through like a telephone microphone. So you pretty much need the compression on this unit. And that's as far as that goes. And then also, Pat, I'm going by the Imaginary Day album, which won a Grammy. It's one of the best modern jazz albums, one of the best jazz albums of the modern day. And I'm going by that. He uses a couple different tones on that. So what you can do with this, the attack synth, is roll off the mix a bit and then add the color drives. I found that some of these didn't really work too well. Like, you could use a fuzz. I think the facial fuzz works pretty good, but it's a bit muddy in this mix. So I found the color drive worked the best. And you get kind of a distorted tone with the mix of the attack synth rolled off. And you can assign it to the expression pedal and then roll that off and then step on your color drive. And yeah, so it's just some random notes there. I don't even know what I'm playing, but it just gives you an example of some like Pat Metheny type chromatic stuff. I don't know what that is. But yeah, so he has a tone sort of like that on the album. I believe on the very first track, Imaginary Day, he breaks into that sort of 3/4 of the way through the tune. And it sounds really cool. This is actually the one that I like the best, the tone that I like the best. Maybe with the mix rolled off on this, just a tiny bit more, actually. And I think he kind of maybe does like almost like a coil split type of thing, because there towards the end at Roots of Coincidence, he does sort of like that's my P90 pickup there. So yeah, you get a bit of hum with the single coil. So that's it for that tone that I like, that I have. There's not really any downloadable internet bass for the 500X, and I would assume that these are similar in the line of like what newer modelers have from Line6. They use the same type of effects, so you could find these in more modern modeler if you want to find this and come up with your own. It's not too difficult to come up with a tone like this, but this is the best I could come up with. And I also want to point out that I'm using wave number 3 with the symptomatic and the square waves with the attack synth. That combo seemed to work best. And for amps, since it uses a lot of CPU for this effect chain, you're only going to get a certain number of amps available to you. I personally always like the basement. I find it's the smoothest, most buttery tone. And then this one uses a lot less CPU. I wouldn't normally use this on most effect chains, but this one, because it's a high CPU usage effect chain, you're going to need to like bump down the amp, I think. And I always prefer these smaller cabs. I find you get kind of a tone that's a little bit pushing it too much unless you have the actual cab to go with it. So yeah, I use the smaller cabs. Like for me, I have a 2x12 and a 1x12. I have a 212 and a 210. So I find if you use these bigger cabs on the amp modeler, it's going to be a little bit pushing it for your amp. And then I also like to have the master not all the way up, because I find that's mainly for like if you want an overdriven power stage. So that's not really what I'm looking for on a jazz guy. So it depends. It's all based on your taste. So I'm not going to go too much into the details on that, but just to say that is this combination of effects in this chain is actually a very high CPU usage, and you won't be able to use every amp with this effects chain. So that's about it. I'll try and get some samples. I'm gonna have to bust out the CD. Like as I said, I bought it on the day that it was released, and it's a highly influential album to me. And personally, I find The Roots of Coincidence, which won Best Performance of the Year when that album came out, it's kind of a similar sound to my music with Bad Jamalamas. The playing's not anywhere on the level of Pat, but it's a similar sound as that. So it was there was a lot of music like that going on in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. So he was right in there with what was going on at the time. And I've always loved his synth sound on his guitar, and he's had it for a long time. And it's just classic now. Like everyone knows that with Pat. So anyways, that's about it for this video, and I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe if you want.